talk pro. Well, I want to kind of take off on a subject that I think is important to every coach. There isn't any coaching done unless you know how to help your players learn. You can take all the diagrams, all the ideas on offense and defense and everything, but if you cannot help your players learn how to do it the best way, the ideas just evaporate. This is a very important part of what we do, and we tend to ignore it. We tend to feel that all we got to do is say it cleverly or brightly or intelligently, and then it's up to the players. It's not. And the other thing we forget is that players can learn by themselves. We don't have to feel that we've got to teach everything. Up above me here, it says, teaching is overrated, learning is underrated. And I believe that to be true, that people worry and work and think about how to teach their players or their students, when really what they need to emphasize and to work with is how to help them learn. They will learn by themselves if you help them. I have a couple stories I want to tell you in regard to that. When I was in China, we went around the whole country. It was a huge trip, and we did a lot of work to find players for our school, good players. And one night I had eaten and I was walking through the hotel lobby and I heard this music, and it was kind of eerie. It was different. I couldn't really even tell where it was coming from, except that I finally saw a young lady sitting up with like a box, and she was doing something like this, and the music was coming from that. And I was intrigued, so I sat and watched it for a while. And when she took a break, I asked her, and she could speak a little English, what the instrument was called. And she told me the name, and I wrote it down. Well, where I lived in Dongguan, I was very close to a music store that not only was a store, but gave lessons and had practice rooms and everything. So I went in there as soon as I got back, which it was quite a while, and they had all kinds of these instruments. And I wanted to buy one. And so I talked to the lady, and she told me all about it, told me the price. And I said, but somebody's got to teach me. And she said, well, we have an excellent player that plays this instrument all over. And she's here now. So they went and got her. Well, she couldn't speak English, and I can't speak Chinese, but I did have my interpreter with me that day. So we agreed on a lesson or two, till I learned. And the first day the interpreter went, and it was very clumsy. First of all, I had to learn, on these three fingers, you tape on, it's like a long fingernail. You tape it on so your fingernail is out almost a half inch from where your thumb is, and on all three fingers and on both hands. And so that's how you strike the strings. And we got through that day, but I was awkward. I felt awkward with the interpreter because he was kind of cutting in and stopping her and everything. So the next lesson I went to, I just decided I was going to gut it out. And I walked in and told her I don't have my interpreter today. And she kind of smiled because I think she wanted it to be this way too. But she couldn't talk any English, and I couldn't talk or understand any Chinese. But what she did was she would show me with her fingers what to do. Then I would try it. And she would say, either one, that is wrong. That is right. That's all she knew how to say. And so that's how I learned to play that instrument. With no more talk than that. I'd go to my lessons, and what she'd assigned me I tried to do, and what I did wrong, she would tell me right away what was wrong and show me, sometimes actually putting her fingers on top of mine, because that's the only way she could get the point across. But I will tell you, after it was all over, I thought, I learned better the way she did it, without any talking, than people that, give lessons and there's a lot of talking. It made me think. And so I was trying to think, this is very important to us as coaches. And I was taken by that the way she did it. And I started to do it actually with the Chinese players, because they didn't speak English either. And so I kind of said the same thing to them, that is wrong, and then that is right. And I could tell that we were getting more communication that way. So I fooled with it for a while, and then I thought, I was trying to think of some other examples, and then it came to me, how you teach a baby to walk. This is not an easy thing. It's very complicated, and it requires a lot of strong principles, because this is a case, the baby can't talk. You can't understand the baby because the baby can't talk, and the baby can't understand you because she or he don't understand what the words are. So I went back to how we did it. My wife and I, with one of our first children, a boy. And I just followed through that, because what I see other people do with their children is exactly what we did. The first thing that took place is the boy was, of course, crawling. Well, in his crawling, he would see a stool or something taller than him and know that, obviously, had seen us sit on it or do whatever we did on it, and he would start to try to pull himself up, and he would fail a lot. But we would encourage him. We never make fun of him or anything. We said, you can do it, and we just kind of left him to himself. And one day he did it. He pulled himself up, and we of course celebrated. And that made the little boy puff up a little bit. And that probably is the beginning of egoism that will go much bigger as he gets older. And the next step was that my wife, who seemed to know a lot about this, would hold her hands out about 2 feet from the boy. Not very far at all. And say, come to mommy. And keep encouraging him. You could see he was thinking about it, but he didn't know exactly what to do. Finally, he'd take a step and fall down. Try again, fall down. And all the time, that's okay. We never said anything negative. Then one day he makes it, 2 steps, and falls into his mother's arms. And then, the place explodes. Now he's more puffed up. And then we just extended, because now he could handle 2 feet. So it wasn't so hard to extend it another 2 feet. He could do that very quickly. And then another 2 feet. And so finally, he could walk almost across the room. And we would work with him on that. And it was a pleasant thing for both the parents and the little boy. And then one day we just happened to notice him. He was playing away, and he had a toy that he really liked, and he was looking for it, trying to find it, and then he saw it across the room. He got up and walked straight over to that toy and picked it up. Didn't really think about it. I think he was surprised he could do it. From that day on, walking was no more a problem. So when I was, it impressed me to think back to that, how a little boy like that could learn how to do something. I mean, that's not much less than learning a jump shot or defensive maneuver or anything. It's the same principle that we are doing as coaches. So I decided to write down what we did, and out of it came 9 principles that I think hold up for any type of learning, and it showed that we didn't need to be so involved in it as coaches. Yes, you have to explain, and demonstrating is good. As you get older and you can understand words, and you can, it's more sophisticated. But the principles shouldn't change. So I'm going to give those principles to you. There's 9 of them in just a little bit. But I'm going to close it with those principles. But I just want to encourage you to think about helping your players learn instead of what you do to get them to do it. Keep in mind always, this is about them learning. It's not about me. It's about the players have to learn. What happens is to that little boy, as he grows up, parents get frustrated with what he does, and they get irritated, and they blame him. And then he grows and it gets worse. And then pretty soon they're saying things like, little Jimmy over here gets an A's in his math, and you're only getting C's. And then it extends to bigger things. Then you change the feeling and the effort that really works. And we start out, this I'm convinced of, and scientists are too, they convinced me actually, that every baby that is born, if there isn't some damage, is born exactly the same brain. Regardless of what you think that intelligence is, it isn't at birth. It's what happens to you after birth. And actually, a lot of that is detrimental because it has a tendency to lose confidence. Remember that little baby. Once he was confident that he could do a step, he did a second step. Once he was confident he could do 2 steps, he did 4 steps. His confidence built, and we have to think the same way. Well, now I'm going to finish with the 9 principles. I'd like you to write them down and sit with them a little bit. That's part of learning. It isn't me just keep saying it to you. It's you sitting there and working it through in your mind. Because every time you do that, you are forming that neural path that makes it easier to do it again, and pretty soon it gets to be a habit. So let's look at the 9 principles. I'm just going to read through these for you in case you have a vision thing on if you're usually on your mobile if it's vision, so you will hear them at least. These are the 9 things. that we came up with that we did, principles that we learned. The number one is we started by using simple and easy steps. Number two, we encouraged. Number three, we did not punish failure. We allowed the boy just to get back up and try again. Number four, we allowed the boy to work through it himself. Number five, we provided a great deal of repetition. Number six, we kept everything simple. Number seven, we took ourselves out of it, self-forgetfulness. We reduced because we couldn't talk to the boy or the boy couldn't talk to us. Our ego was reduced and we were more enthralled with helping the boy learn. Number eight, we patiently waited without the stress of time. We corrected what we could, but it was limited. Thinking that all of this, no one could talk. The boy couldn't talk, couldn't understand, so the parents had no way of communicating. And yet they taught him, or he learned, a very complex physical maneuver. When you really reduce walking down, it's not something that is easily done. But in the case of the baby, the baby learned from his parents, encouraging him, not punishing him. He learned to walk by himself. He learned without teaching.